Hello, and welcome back to Happy Seniors Life. This is Dr. Thomas speaking. 30 years, walking beside people over 60. And I'll tell you something I've learned the hard way. Mornings matter more than we think, because it's not the big things that take us down. It's the small things we ignore. The dry mouth, the trembling hand, the skipped glass of water. Today, we're honored to be joined by a legend of longevity. He's a physician, a teacher, and a man who lived past 100 years old, still writing, still walking, still inspiring. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara from Japan. Together, we're going to talk about the most silent warning signs your body gives you after 60, and the habits we repeat every morning. That may be quietly increasing your stroke risk without you knowing. So let me ask you something from the heart. Have you ever dropped your toothbrush or fumbled with the buttons of your shirt and thought, maybe it's just old age? If yes, type the number 1 in the comments. If no, type 0. Because your experience matters and you're not alone. And if this episode speaks to you, please hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you and I don't lose touch on this journey to live strong, live well, and live long. Topics 1-5. Early warning signs of stroke. Most seniors miss Dr. Thomas. If you're over 60, here's something I want you to take seriously. A stroke rarely comes out of nowhere. The brain always whispers before it shouts. And most people don't recognize the whisper. They wait for the dramatic signs: a drooping face, slurred speech, total collapse. But the earliest signs are often much quieter and much easier to miss. That's why I asked Dr. Hinohara to join me again today. Because his approach to aging is not about fear, it's about awareness. Dr. Hinohara, yes. Awareness is the beginning of health. In Japan, we teach our elders that the body sends small invitations to listen. Ignore them, and the invitation becomes a warning. Ignore that, and it may become a crisis. Dr. Thomas, let me walk you through 5 of the most commonly overlooked early signs of stroke. The ones I've seen repeatedly in my own patients, and the ones I hope you'll never ignore again. Sign 1. A subtle clumsiness in the hands, not full paralysis. Just a slight miss. You reach for your toothbrush and your hand doesn't land where it should. You try to zip your jacket and the zipper slips. One patient of mine, 69 years old, came in after 3 mornings of feeling off. His wife said he's dropping things a lot lately. Turned out, he'd experienced 2 brief TIAs, transient ischemic attacks. His brain was already trying to warn him. Sign 2. A moment of blankness. One man, a retired school teacher, sat down to write a grocery list. He looked at the word milk and couldn't remember how to spell it. No headache, no confusion otherwise. Just that one moment. This is not typical senior forgetfulness. It's a vascular red flag. Even one brief interruption in blood flow can cause these cognitive hiccups. Dr. Hinohara. Yes, when someone forgets a name, it can be normal. But when they forget how to use a name, how to spell, how to write, that is neurological. In my experience, these tiny gaps are often the first step in a longer decline. If left unaddressed, Dr. Thomas sign 3. Dizziness during movement, not at rest. This is a big one. If you feel fine lying down, but get lightheaded when standing, bending, or walking, don't just write it off as getting older. It might be orthostatic hypotension, or it could be the result of unstable blood flow to the brain. This often happens in the morning when the body is dehydrated, blood pressure is rising, and the vessels are stiff from age. Dr. Hinohara, One of my patients described it as losing the horizon. She would stand and the room would tilt, and within days, she had a full stroke. If we had listened to that early tilt, we could have intervened sooner. Dr. Thomas signed for a change in walking pattern, especially dragging one foot. You might think it's just your shoes or arthritis. But when one leg begins to lag behind the other, that may be a sign your brain isn't coordinating movement smoothly. I saw this in a 74-year-old former construction worker. His wife noticed he was shuffling more on the left. No pain, no weakness, just different. We scanned him. There was a clot forming in the right hemisphere of his brain, the side that controls the left foot. He had no idea. He thought he just needed new sneakers. Dr. Hinohara, we must teach our seniors, if one side of the body moves differently than the other, do not ignore it. Balance is a brain function. Sign 5 speech that pauses even for a moment. This one may be the hardest to notice, especially if you live alone. But if you ever feel like a word is stuck, like your mouth doesn't form it quite right, even for just a second, it could be a sign that part of your brain is struggling to fire. This may happen hours or even days before a stroke, and if ignored, it could be your last chance to act. Dr. Thomas now. Some of you may be thinking, well, I've had moments like these. Should I panic? No, don't panic, but do pay attention and speak with your doctor. The most dangerous thing you can do is to ignore it because it feels small. Dr. Hinohara. In Japanese culture, we often say, it is the hairline crack that breaks the dam. So too with health. One moment of missed coordination, one day of clumsy speech. One mistake, they seem small, but they are the body's whisper. Dr. Thomas. The good news. If caught early, most TIAs and stroke precursors can be managed, even reversed. A 2016 study published in The Lancet Neurology found that treatment within the first 48 hours after a TIA reduces the risk of a full stroke by over 80%. Let me say that again. Over 80% reduction just by acting quickly. That's the power of awareness. So I'll leave you with this question. Have you noticed a moment of off lately? A missed step, a slipped thought, a dragging foot? If yes, please, tell someone, write it down, bring it to your next appointment. Don't wait for your body to scream, because sometimes listening early is what saves everything later. Topics 2. The 5 morning habits that silently raise stroke risk after age. 60. Dr. Thomasin, let's slow down now, because sometimes the most dangerous things aren't dramatic. They're quiet. They're familiar. They're what we do every single morning without thinking. And that's what makes them powerful for better or for worse. Today, I want to walk with you through 5 common morning habits I've seen in hundreds of patients over 60. Habits that may seem harmless, but over time, they can quietly open the door to stroke. Dr. Hinohara. In Japan, we often say, the body remembers what you do before the mind does, so if you begin each day with neglect, your body learns to survive, not to thrive. Dr. Thomas, let's start with the first habit and perhaps the most overlooked. Habit 1, skipping water. Most of us wake up, brush our teeth, take our pills, and head straight for coffee. But here's the truth after 7 or 8 hours of sleep. Your body is slightly dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker, your vessels are tighter, your brain drier. A 2021 study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that seniors who began their day with under 8 ounces of water had a 40% higher risk of morning blood pressure spikes. Dr. Hinohara. In my home, I always kept a glass of warm water beside the bed. Even before I stood up, I drank slowly, not just to quench my thirst, but to wake up my vessels. It is the first act of love we give our brain each morning. Dr. Thomas Habit 2. Sitting still too long after waking. I see this all the time. My patients tell me I just sit in bed for 20 minutes. I need to gather myself. But what's really happening? Blood pools in the legs. Your brain, already thirsty for oxygen, doesn't get the circulation it needs. This can cause lightheadedness, poor balance, and in vulnerable people, even trigger mini strokes. Dr. Hinohara. In traditional Japanese medicine, we teach the elderly to wake the body in layers. Wiggle the toes, stretch the back. Stand only after breath and motion have returned. It's not just movement, it's a reconnection. Dr. Thomas, I had a patient once, Mrs. E., 76 years old. She fainted in the bathroom one morning, hitting her shoulder on the bathtub. No stroke, thank God, but we traced the issue to something simple. She'd been going from lying down to standing without any transition for years. That sudden shift creates a surge, and older arteries can't always handle it. Habit 3. Skipping breakfast. I know intermittent fasting is popular, but it's not always safe for people over 60. Many seniors wake up, take medications especially for blood pressure or diabetes, and then eat nothing until lunch. That's a dangerous setup. Dr. Hinohara. The brain uses glucose as its main fuel. If there's no fuel, the brain doesn't panic, it slows. Reaction time drops, balance changes, focus weakens, and all of those are stroke precursors in the right conditions. Dr. Thomas A. study published in JAMA Internal Medicine in 2023 found that older adults who regularly skipped breakfast had double the risk of experiencing stroke symptoms in the first half of the day. Even a small snack, half a boiled egg, a spoonful of unsweetened yogurt, a handful of almonds can stabilize blood sugar and support circulation. Habit 4. Flooding the brain with stress, the news, emails, financial worries, arguments. They come early, often before water or food. But the body isn't ready. After waking, cortisol, the stress hormone, is already peaking naturally. If you add mental strain on top of that, you increase blood pressure and vascular inflammation. Dr. Hinohara. This is why I tell my patients, do not give the world your mind before you give yourself your breath. In my home. The first 30 minutes of the day were silent. No radio, no planning, no tension, just life. Dr. Thomas A. 2015 study from the journal Stroke tracked over 93,000 participants and found that high stress levels within the first 3 hours after waking were strongly associated with increased risk of stroke, especially in those over 60. Habit 5. Remaining sedentary. We think danger means doing too much, but for seniors, it's often doing too little. Many retirees wake, sit at the table, read the paper, then watch television all before walking a single step. But immobility slows venous return. It creates the perfect environment for blood clots to form, particularly in the legs. Dr. Hinohara's stillness may feel restful. But for aging arteries, it's like standing water, it breeds stagnation. Dr. Thomas, the Circulation Journal, published a study in 2018 that followed 8,000 seniors, those who spent more than 9 hours per day sedentary, especially in the early morning, had double the stroke risk even if they exercised later. So let me ask our listeners, which of these 5 habits lives in your morning? Do you forget to drink water? Do you sit too long? Skip food? Open your phone before your breath. Stay still until noon. Whatever it is, you can change it. You can rewrite your morning story. Because a new habit doesn't start with force, it starts with awareness. And one small act of care Topics 3. East meets West. Scientific insights and cultural wisdom for protecting the aging brain. Dr. Thomas. We've talked a lot today about what the signs, the habits, the risks. But let's talk now about the how. How do we build mornings that actually protect the aging brain? This is where East meets West, not in theory, but in practice. Because while Western medicine has taught us how to measure, scan, and medicate, Eastern tradition has taught us how to slow down, listen, and prepare the body before crisis strikes. Dr. Hinohara. That is exactly right. I did not live past 100 years by avoiding illness. I lived long because I made friends with my body every morning, before I opened a single file, before I wrote a single word. Dr. Thomas. That idea of befriending your body is something we rarely talk about in Western clinics. Here, we tend to treat the body like a machine, fix it when it breaks, push it harder when it slows. But the brain is not a car engine. It's a garden. It responds to care, to rhythm, to gentle consistency. Dr. Hinohara. In Japan, we believe the first 60 minutes after waking are sacred. We do not use this time to plan or argue. We use it to balance, stretching, hydrating, quiet thinking. Even in my 90s, I would do light squats in the morning, not to build muscle, but to remind the blood, keep moving. Dr. Thomas, there's good science behind that. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Geriatric Cardiology found that older adults who practiced intentional morning routines, meaning water, light stretching, and deep breathing, had significantly better cerebral blood flow and memory recall scores. One study, one habit, big difference. Dr. Hinohara. We used to say, do not start the day in reaction. Start it with respect. Dr. Thomas, I love that, because in America, many people start their mornings responding to emails, news, text messages, even financial stress. But that sends your brain the wrong message. The world is dangerous. Brace yourself. What if, instead, we said, this morning is mine, this body is mine, this breath is enough for now. Dr. Hinohara, beautiful. I always believed health was more than the absence of disease. It was the presence of intention. And nothing teaches intention like a quiet morning. Let me tell you a story. When I was 85, I visited an old friend in Nagano. He had been a monk, then a school principal. He walked slowly, deliberately. He boiled his water. He fed birds before breakfast. And he told me something I'll never forget every morning. I greet the world like it's new. Because for me, it is. That mindset of starting the day with reverence, not resistance, is perhaps the greatest medicine of all. Dr. Thomas, I had a patient who once told me, Doc, I wake up every day and feel behind on bills, behind on chores, behind on energy. And I looked at her and said, maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're just being pulled too fast. We live in a society that worships speed, but the aging brain, it worships rhythm. Dr. Hinohara, yes, speed may win races, but rhythm wins lifespans. Dr. Thomas, so here's something I want to give our listeners today. A gift, a ritual, a blueprint. 5 minutes, 5 steps, every morning. Step 1, drink a glass of warm water. Slowly, consciously. Step 2, do gentle ankle rolls and neck stretches. Step 3, sit by a window and take 5 deep breaths. Step 4, eat one thing that grew from the earth, a fruit, a nut, a piece of steamed egg. Step 5, think of one person you're grateful for, even if that person is you. That's it. Not a to-do list, a to-be list. Dr. Hinohara, if you do that every morning, you will not just prevent stroke. You will preserve your presence,
Dr. Thomas. And presence is the foundation of all healing. Not pills, not tests, but being here, in this body, with this breath. So to everyone listening, what if tomorrow you woke up, not to rush, but to return? Return to the miracle of being alive. Return to the rhythm of your breath. Return to the quiet wisdom your body's been waiting to show you. Dr. Hinohara, do not chase health. Create health. One morning at a time. Emotional payoff. The morning that could save your brain.
Dr. Thomas, there's something I want to tell you not as a doctor, but as a man who has walked beside hundreds of patients in their final years. Most people do not fear aging. What they fear is losing themselves, their memory, their speech, their ability to walk, to hug, to choose their own breakfast. And the tragedy is much of that loss can be delayed, not by expensive treatments, not by fancy supplements, but by something much more humble. The first hour of your day. Dr. Hinohara, in my final lectures, I often said this: the way you rise is the way you live. And I meant it literally, because when we rush, when we skip water, when we drown our brain in stress before we breathe, we are telling our body prepare for survival, not for living. Dr. Thomas, I had a patient 81 years old, a retired pianist. He told me one day, "Doc, my fingers don't land right on the keys anymore." He thought it was arthritis, but it wasn't. It was a minor stroke. Silent, no pain, just a shift in how his body moved through the morning. And the heartbreaking part, it could have been prevented if we had caught it a week earlier, when he started spilling coffee or struggling to tie his laces. If only he knew those little signs mattered. Dr. Hinohara, in my practice, I've seen something similar. One woman came to me late 70s, very active. She woke up one day and couldn't remember how to fold her origami. No headache, no slurred speech, just a blank. Her family said, "She's just tired." But I saw her, and I saw her brain crying for help. We acted quickly. She never had a major stroke. She's still making origami, and now she teaches it to children. Dr. Thomas stories like that remind us why we're here today, to tell you every sip of water matters, every stretch of your arms, every bite of breakfast, every breath you take before turning on the news. These are not routines. They are acts of protection. Dr. Hinohara, when I was 90, I still walked stairs every day. People asked me, "How do you do it?" And I said, "Because I walk stairs while I still can. Not because I'm strong, but because I respect the body that carries me." Dr. Thomas, if you've listened this far, I want to ask you something very real. And I want you to answer in the comments. Not for me, but for you. What is one small thing you will do differently tomorrow morning? Will you drink water before coffee? Will you breathe before turning on the TV? Will you sit by the window for 5 minutes in silence? Whatever it is, write it down, because when you name your intention, you make it real. Dr. Hinohara, and if you already have a healthy habit, share that, too. Maybe you do morning stretches. Maybe you hum a song from your youth. Maybe you pray. Tell us. You might inspire someone across the world to take back their morning. Dr. Thomas, we read every single comment because each story reminds us why we do what we do. And if today's episode reminded you of someone you love, please send this video to them. Let them know their body still listens. That healing is still possible. That growing older does not mean giving up. It means showing up gently, but firmly for ourselves. Dr. Hinohara, growing old is not a tragedy. It is a privilege denied to many, and the way we live it is the message we leave behind. Dr. Thomas. So, tomorrow morning before the news, before the plans, before the world rushes in, give yourself 10 quiet minutes to sip, to move, to greet your body, not as a problem, but as a partner in this long, beautiful journey. And if you've ever felt forgotten, let me say this to you clearly. You are not forgotten. You are still here. You are still powerful. You are still becoming. Dr. Hinohara, let us begin each morning with softness. Let us build habits that carry our dignity, and let us remember living long is not about adding years. It's about adding life to the years we have. Dr. Thomas, next week, we'll talk about 7 foods that block your blood flow quietly after age 60 and what to eat instead. It's a conversation you won't want to miss. Until then, live slow, live strong, and never stop listening to what your body is trying to tell you.